All right, it is time to check in. Where am I lacking? Where am I strong? And what needs to improve? So let's test it out. I think the biggest thing that I've focused on this year has just been the front splits, and this is definitely a strong point for me. It feels very comfortable, and I don't even really need to warm up to get into this position. The left side is definitely my weaker side, but it's still definitely doable. So this is probably my strongest skill, but it could definitely go more. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go into like over splits or anything, but it is worth exploring. So maybe I'll do that in the future. Now, the middle splits historically has been very, very challenging for me. I can definitely get pretty low down there, and it takes a little bit of time, but I can get myself down pretty close. Wait. There's a touchdown. But even so, it's not perfect. It definitely could use a lot of improvement. And in the past, it was actually way better. And you can see that like this. But it's only because I haven't put any effort or focus on it. So that is also a weak point that I need to focus on. And of course, we have to test the bane of my existence, the back bend. I'm reasonably confident that I can just kind of fall back into it if I go a little sideways. And then I can start lifting myself up. The reason why this is a big weak point of mine is because back in, I don't know what year it was, but a couple years ago, I had a back injury. So the thought of extending my spine at all in any capacity was scary. So I didn't work on it as much as I should have, but I'm past that now, so there's no excuses. So I can definitely hold the back bend itself, but there is a lot of potential for increase here. Oh my goodness. But it does take a lot of effort. I already tested the middle split, so you can kind of already tell that my pancake flexibility is really good. Yeah, I guess there's not really the best I could do in this is probably start strengthening it so I can hold like weights on my back and start doing pancake good mornings. I haven't done those in a very long time, but even with just my body weight, oh, this is a really good workout. So that's also another thing I could focus on. Now, I already showed you my front split flexibility, but something that I didn't really talk about is the hip flexor specifically. With the hip flexor, your quads are hugely involved. In fact, one of your hip flexor muscles is one of your quad muscles. And by the way, it's called a hip flexor because it flexes your hip, meaning it whoop. So what you can do is you can go into a hip flexor stretch just like so. And as you can see, I'm really good at this. I can sink super, super deep into this. But where I'm weak is when I get that quad more involved and then my hips kind of have to elevate. And it takes some time to actually get my hips down. Eventually what I'd like to be able to do is get my hips to sag down much further and get my leg closer to my butt comfortably, let's say. So if I focused on that, my front splits would be a dream. It would be just so easy. It also would unlock a lot more of that back flexibility because surprisingly, a lot of this has to do with those hip flexors. As you can see from the side angle, the better your hip extension is, the better your back bridge is. Whew. My form is horrendous with that back bridge, but you get the point. Something I always forget about, but I shouldn't, is shoulder flexibility. Now, I've always been naturally good at this one, so I never really focused on it. A little outside of shoulder width, but there's definitely room for improvement here where I could get that distance much, much closer. Oh, that is so difficult. Maybe one day I'll get my hands closer and closer. Maybe they'll touch one day, but I'm not there yet, and it's just because I don't focus on it whatsoever at all. So that's another weakness of mine that I should probably address. Now, we're gonna go back to these hips here. Most people forget that your hips are not just about like hamstrings and hip flexors. They're also about rotation, external and internal. I've always been good at external rotation, and I'll give an example here. I had to train to get to this ability, but this was a lot easier than many other flexibility skills that I have. Now, what I thought was impossible was hip internal rotation, the ability to go the other way. But it's definitely not impossible, it's just I didn't train it whatsoever. The biggest thing I'm proud of this year is that I've actually put some effort into hip internal rotation, and I can now W sit like this without my knees absolutely exploding. So having my hips sink down, it is screaming inside my hips right now, but man, oh, that took a lot of effort to get to. So there's a little bit of room for improvement there. Like I could get my feet further out. There's lots of stuff, but having that internal rotation makes deep squatting so easy. Like for instance, you could just chill like this. You can do a regular deep squat, or you can do your external rotation deep squat, kind of like the yogis do. This one requires a bit more external rotation. I don't really have anything else to add to that, so I'm obviously way above average flexibility wise, but there is so much room to grow, it's insane. So yeah, follow, I mean, if you want to see me progress, because I definitely will be focusing on these and I will be progressing. So stay flexy.